Scattered across the Scottish coast lies over 700 different islands, 94 of which recorded as uninhabited. Each island full of stories and folklore stretching far back into Scottish history. Each resident living with unique experiences and stories hidden among the vast landscape of forest, beaches and mountain ranges. Stories often untold and land often untouched, these islands hold special value to Scottish culture and are a driving factor for tourism, drawing thousands each year to experience the remoteness of the Scottish Isles. This documentary dives into two stories from two different islands and two very different ways of living. We will hear of stories of folklore and the struggles of remote living, along with the community and the contentment that lingers around these islands. Our story starts with one very common link: the ferries. Linking these islands together, not just acting as transport, but as vital lifelines for residents' food and resources. Without these ferries, island life would be a lot more challenging. Rugged and ever-changing, the Isle of Mull is shaped by both nature and time. Once a stronghold of ancient clans, where history still lingers in its castles and coastlines. Down remote single-track roads we meet Alistair.
I'm Alistair Satchell, and I am here with Kyle in the woodlands at Linnecrow, Ciancú, in the head of Loch Gochuin, near Dervig, looking out onto the north, out to Rome and beyond. Good question. So I'm a film, theatre and podcast maker, and I also work with community education, community filmmaking, and all sorts of different bits and bobs. So yeah, podcasting is doesn't make much money, but it's a really nice thing to do. It's a lovely thing because you get people a voice. You allow people to find their voice in a way that they might not have been able to do so before. And a lot of the film teaching I do is kind of about the same thing as well. As how do you allow communities to find ways to express themselves that are organically theirs, so that they stand out and kind of can be heard. Theatre stuff is really interesting, but can tend to switch off when we watch theatre. Whereas if you watch film, it's somehow more commanding cultural medium, and people just tend to engage with it like that. So I'm about trying to find ways to let people express themselves in a way that's natural to themselves with film, and make films that things that interest me. So filmmaking, I was 16, 17. I'd always been a big fan of films, and I grew up in Dunoon, and I'm very fortunate that we had a fantastic cinema in Dunoon. We always felt very welcome, and we'd go to kind of Saturday clubs in the afternoon, and while your mum was out shopping, your pals would go to the cinema and watch all sorts of things. Just saw some amazing films, really kind of a broad range of things, and so I'd always thought, that'd be nice to do. And when I got to 16, 17, video cameras were a little bit more available. They were not, it was too expensive to own. They were seriously expensive bits of kit. But I would beg, borrow and steal them from the school or friends who had them. And I would start making films with my friends and just myself, trying to catch just daft things around the world, and very much around the world around me. Very much a fan of Monty Python, so I was kind of doing a lot of stupid Monty Python style sketches, being at bins and things like that. And I had an edit at school. There was an editing system which was like a double deck editing system, which was fantastic, and you could put things on frame by frame, and you could type things up in front of it, appear in digital text. It was great. I'd go in when I wasn't revising due to Easter holidays and do stuff with that, with Kevin, our school technician Kevin Campbell, to whom I owe a lot. He was so kind. He would spend time with me teaching me how to do that. It's during the holidays, and I would go do that when I was revising. And then when I was at home, I would sit with a video camera, a VHS player, and a personal stereo, and be like, okay, play on the there's no stereo, and then pause. It was just really, really good fun. So I learned film making that way years ago, and then I was always involved in theatre stuff. I'd never really thought that I could study film at university. Don't know why. Didn't think. Even though I'd been making films, and so I went down a more theatrical route, and I studied at Queen Margaret in Edinburgh. Studied playwriting and drama there, and then got fed up with the dullness of British theatre at the time. It's very much I'm standing, speaking. Oh, hold on. So I went off to Paris and studied mime for 2 years. The daft things. And when I came back to Scotland, I ended up working all over the world with theatre stuff. I was very lucky. And I'd always, phones started to have cameras in them, and you were able to do a little bit more with that. And digital cameras themselves started to make an appearance, and I started doing films with stills, making sort of still film, films out for a sequence of stills and characters and those doing stupid things with hats and moustaches and beards. And I'm really interested in using Windows Media Player, which was way back, so you be very, very young. And then when I came here to Mull, I got a chance to run a young people's filmmaking workshop and did that. And then when I left working for the theatre here, I got more into filmmaking, and I've got a digital camera, and upgraded my kit slowly, and made loads of films with a Final Cut and all that. So been very, very fortunate. I grew up in Dunoon. I was born in Greenock, which was all the firstborn children of the time had to be born in Greenock at the Rankin Memorial. And then I was Dunoon from day 3 or whatever, and it was there till I was 18. Then I went off to Edinburgh, and Dunoon it's a great place. I mean, I love Dunoon, and I'm still very committed to it. I want to go. Eventually, we probably will go back there at some point. But I mean, it's hard to leave here when it's so lovely, as you can see. And then Dunoon to Edinburgh study, and directed lots of plays and acted in lots of plays after going to Paris as well. And then I had a play which was very successful, which was going to go to off-Broadway and the West End, off West End stuff in London. And unfortunately it all fell apart. The chap I was working with kind of just disappeared. I know he's okay, I know he's alive, but they just disappeared. And that. So the project unfortunately disappeared, and I was left with what looked like 2 years of solid work ahead of me going, what did I do? And so I saw there was a job coming up on Mull for education officer with the theatre here. And I thought, I enjoy doing workshops and process things like that. And so I thought, why not come here and try that, see how it goes. And so in 2006 I got a job with theatre, but I got a job working in Hong Kong as an actor in gave a theatre called Theatre de Beef out there, which was lovely. And so I said, would it be okay if I went out to Hong Kong for a couple of months to that? And I mean, no problem. So I went out, came here, did a bit of work, and then I went out to Hong Kong for a couple of months, and then came back, and then that's been here all the world ever since. So yeah, the thing that sticks in my mind most about coming to Mull first was when I moved here properly after being away in Hong Kong in January the 7th, 2007. And I remember I just got a car and hadn't driven properly on my own for ages. And I thought, I'd driven from Dunoon to Oban, I thought I'd be okay. And then I got off the ferry and I got stuck into local traffic going, because I was quite near the front of the queue. And everyone was driving these single track roads in the dark at high speed. I remember driving along, kicking up and going, oh God. And then the minute I got into Tobermory, where I was going to be staying, I went to see a house. That there, my first moment there, and it was number 13 Albin Street. It's a beautiful old house, which has now been totally refurbished. And then I remember I went in, and it didn't have a shower. It had a lean-to kitchen and bathroom at the back of it, which was incredibly cold. But it had so much character. I was like, it was confining housing, as now was so hard on Mull. So I was like, I have to take this. So I took this place for £400 a month, and it was wonderful. And then I went to a B&B where I stayed in the B&B for a couple of nights, and then our house wasn't quite ready for me to go and move into, so I stayed in a place called Còmhnaidh, which means the cold hill, and it's where the radio mast, the TV mast is for this part of the Highlands actually, and it was windy and dark and isolated, and I thought, oh, what the hell have I done? And it was it was nice, and I was with a girl in Taunton at the time, and she wasn't for moving north or isolated, so that kind of came to an end, and she's very happy. I'm very happy.
Hello there. We see wild spaniels roaming around. Ripples. So, Ridley, do you want to come say hi? No. So wildlife-wise, there's so much to see.
In this area immediately we've got the otters, and the otters are kind of rescunners. They're lovely, but they ate all our chickens, so it's really, we were picking them one off a day, so we had to build a specific chicken run for them. And then also deer. Like most mornings you'll see deer kicking about, at night time there's always deer kicking about as well. And then sheep, lots of sheep around as well. It's nearly lamb season. I think that's next week. The lambs will be arriving, which is really exciting. It's always like, yeah. And as you can hear around us, there's loads and loads of bird song. So there's lots of birds, little kind of things, but also there's bigger birds. There's buzzards you see very often. There's a buzzard that lives in that ash tree that I call Ashley. There's sea eagles, which are the big flappy bams that kind of that eat lambs and take small children, eat the odd tourist or two. They're huge beasties, and they're always really interesting to see. They're a very dramatic creature. My personal favourite is probably, there's two. So the oyster catcher is my definite favourite. I love oyster catchers. They're really beautiful creatures, but I like golden eagles because you don't see them as much. They are here, but they're a bit more, they're not as visible as the sea eagle, because the sea eagle takes up so much more space, like the sea. Whereas peregrines as well, but once in a while we get a peregrine that comes, and there was one in Tobermory a number of years ago. It was always really interesting to see it because it would make amazing noises as it goes up high and comes down with great speed to hunt things, and it was living in the clock tower in Tobermory. I really wish it was still there because it was really fab to see it. But I've seen merlins and all sorts of things, sparrowhawks also with their little yellow wellies on. But yeah, loads of birds around here, and no badgers, no foxes, and no squirrels. Although in Gaelic there's names of places that were associated with foxes and wolves and around us. So just off there's Ulan and Còmhnaidh, which is the island of the fox. So, but the foxes haven't been here for a long time. So, Mull's become home. Really, I do feel very, very connected to Dunoon. I don't know what it is. There's just something about Dunoon that really, I don't know. It's just stuck with me. I think it's the people. There's a lot of lovely folk there. Again, Mull itself, there's lots of really nice people here. We live in a small community. There's only 2,800, 3,200 people, something like that on the Mull. So there's not that many of us, and so you get to know quite a lot of people, and there's some really, really, really dear friends here, friends that you're very, very lucky to have. So that's very much part of it. Sorry, Barney. But there's I think it allows us space. It allows me space to do the work that I want to do, really. And it is hard. It's not an easy place to live at all. So we don't have much choice in things. So like shopping online is a very, very useful thing. That's made life much, much easier. But it's a beautiful place to be. The space is great. Walking around is fantastic. I really like trees, as you can tell, and it's. My friend Jack and Tyree was messaging about something yesterday, and we talked about trees for some reason. He said, what I'd give to see a tree, because Tyree has no keys. There's a guy that used to be with a t-shirt saying Tyree Forestry Commission for a laugh over there. It's ironic when you think Tyree, you take the letter I out and it's true. But so the environment's lovely, it's really nice. The people are great. And then there's as I said earlier, wherever you go, you take your arsehole with you. So there's plenty of people who brought their arseholes with them. So this may be something that's interesting to you. What does trouble me with Mull is, and also the West Highlands and anywhere, is the rise of Instagram and influencer culture. And it's amplifying parts of the culture and parts of the environment in a way that aren't natural to kind of the place. The stories, and there's kind of amplifying stories that aren't real or true, and it's all a lot. It's not very sincere. There's a lot of narcissism in the kind of the work of like, I'm an influencer, look what I'm doing, and you're like, hey, magic, well done. But because there's only 3,000 of us and 1 million visitors come here each year, and each one of those visitors has a story to tell, it's really, really important because it's their holiday. By God, if you're working in a cubicle in Birmingham, welcome. Come here, have a lovely holiday, and tell your story, do. But unfortunately, those 1 million voices, the amplitude of that outweighs the amplitude of our signal. And so this Instagram and kind of influencer culture and social media is a kind of feedback of that. It's a feedback loop on that, and it's just generating these kind of myths of the place that aren't real. And it's not myth in the kind of classic sense of myths. It's more the kind of sense of, I had the most amazing time. Very good. Enjoy your holiday. Shut up. Go away. So that's a lot of my work is about that. It's about trying to tell the organic stories that are native to the place, and I'm very careful not to use the word local because local is such a loaded term. So with the podcast, it's about what we do in the winter. It's about telling the stories of the people who have come here and people who live here, people who belong here, people who have been here for forever, people who've just come in here. It's the stories of the people of the place. So that's the one thing that does worry me within how Mull is presented, because there's a lot of people trying to make a living, and rightly so, but from amplifying the signal of something that's not, it doesn't have the capacity to take that many people. So we live very far from shops, really. So the nearest shop is 2.5 miles away, Doogie's wonderful shop in Dervig. But Doogie's got to make a living, and so the prices are very expensive in there. So I was over in, Aldi in Oban the other day and got shopping for 88 quid. Fantastic amount of stuff. Really great blood. Went to Doogie's the other day and got shopping for 66 quid, and it wasn't even a full basket. And so that's, and don't begrudge that at all, because it is a vital service for running a shop, but it's just very expensive, especially you don't have high incomes, so it's not an easy thing. So the difficulties are, the cost of the co-op is huge as well. The co-op's not even classified actually as a proper supermarket. It's actually classified as a convenience store within the pricing structure of how the co-op works. Ripples. Thank you. And so the prices of the co-op, because they're part of the convenience store classifications, are higher than those if it was a supermarket. So that again puts the cost of living up for people. So the cost of living is very, very high here. Fuel, you need, public transport. There's a bus a couple of times a day. So you have to drive, really. To do what I do, you have to drive. I could do what I do on public transport. It's and also there is the clash between the local economy and the tourist economy as well. So on Monday there, I noticed suddenly the tourists were back on masse, and so interestingly, on Wednesday, the wheatears were back from North Africa. It's like a lovely wee bird, and so it's there's a crossover between seasonal stuff like that, and the birds come back when the tourists come back. So it's obviously quite linked. But so tourists, when you're on holiday, your brain's different. You're kind of more relaxed, and you might not be as kind of engaged in the world around you as you possibly are. So that rhythm of tourism, kind of slow rhythm, it's really nice. It's really annoying because you're trying to get to places, and your rhythm's much more like that. And I remember there's some years ago, I was driving to Tobermory, and I was in a real hurry, and the guy in front of me was just going so slow and just not pulling in at all. I was flashing and honking. I don't like to honk and flash. I don't want to be aggressive on the road at all. Anyway, I got past, I went in the window to shout thank you. And being Scots, when you shout thank you at a distance, it's like, so I was like, thank you very much, and they were kind of taken aback. I don't really understand. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, a letter came through the post saying, "Oh, we found out who you are, and we want to say how disgusted we are by you're shouting at us in the street." I was like, what? And we come to Mull for 20 years. We know Mull. And it was essentially saying we are the spirit of Mull ourselves. And you're like, Jesus Christ! He said, you don't know what people are going through. Like, we've just been through a very difficult medical time, and but how could you rip us? On you go down. How could you? How could you speak to people when you don't know what people's lives are about? And it's like, I was going to see if I had testicular cancer at the doctor's. Just fuck off. Fuck off. Don't impose your narrative on us. That is what the problem is. There's this kind of narcissistic narrative of the self that is imposed over a lot of things. And do you know what? Tourism's brilliant and brings so much to the economy. It drives our economy, but it's not the be all and end all. It's that the claim that tourists feel that they have over everything. Just not every tourist is different, but the majority seem to be that I've encountered seem to be this. Oh, we went to Mull. Oh, tell you about it. And you're like, very good, very good. So I think finding organic ways to kind of connect with people to share the reality of the place is really important. Because it's magic. Yeah, it's magical, but at the same time, Banjo and Rose program is really, really important because it's so positive. In a moment in time when everything is so heavy and hard, the fact that Banjo and Rose made this lovely, bright, cheerful series that is about nice things really, really matters. But it's going to amplify that signal of kind of a narrative of all of that's not really true. It's TV. The reality of a refurbishment is if you want to refurb something, you don't do it from the ground up, you do it from the top up. You get the roof right and go down first. And so, not to give any spoilers, but those plants are all dead in that lovely room. So that's the reality of it. Is TV is not real life. The director of the show's very, very able and was taken very much with the Wes Anderson aesthetic. So if you look at it, every shot's kind of centrally kind of framed and there's kind of symmetry and everything. So when we were making the little bit that I was in, it was very much sitting outside in two chairs with a table while Banjo was supposed to be watching on from the distance. It's all a construct. It's not real. Like if we were going to be talking about something like that for real, we'd do it around the kitchen table or whatever. So these are all constructs and it's not the reality of a place. But Ulva is magical. It's a really great place. Mull is magical. It's a really great place. It's the capacity. My worry is the capacity. Do we have the capacity to deal with these things? And because people invest in such a lovely, emotional way with Banjo and Rose work and the TV programme, they're going to really come in massive numbers. And Ulva, I'm concerned for them that they maybe don't have the capacity to do that, to meet those numbers in terms of the visitor offer, in terms of food. Like the boathouse is incredible and Sam runs an amazing offer there, really, really good. So it's so worth going to. But they're going to be turning people away, I think. And if people are, we found out in the pandemic, different approach to tourism. People came here and were expecting Gran Canaria or something like that. And it's not that at all. There are things, there's a lot for visitors, but there are also, if you go into Ulva, there's really not very much that you've got to be an independent traveller. And the worry for me is that you can get feedback from that. Oh, people go, no, it's rubbish. I hate Mull, I hate Scotland, I hate Ulva. That's my worry with it. So, again, connecting to the sort of reality of things is really important, but people have got to find these things. I mean, if you think about it, look, on Ulva, there's what, now, is it 15, 20 people now? Something like that? Maybe a bit more. It was down to 6 people at one point, even 5. Jamie wasn't really there that often. It was very interesting. It's a very sad time, a very sad history, really. But the community ownership thing it's a struggle, but hopefully it's heading in the right direction. And yeah, I don't know about. Yeah, it's got to be the visitors have got to be aware of what they're coming into. They've got to be the right. You can't go go with your trainers, but then you get kind of mud up your, up to your shach. And so, yeah, it's a tricky one. I have great hope that we'll meet all of us. Yeah, no, all of us, it's just magic. Absolutely fantastic place. I had my stag night there. We walked over to the south side and past the mill and all that over there, and I went out and had barbecued scallops on the beach, and I then walked back and came to Unbearling restaurant in the corner here, and I wired up an old N64 to a video projector. We played video games on the wall and drank beer and chatted, and it was just lovely. So in terms of folklore, we've got a personal example, which was my wife and I were down in the Isle of Mull house sitting for a friend, and we went to a place called Sgwr. And Sgwr is this beautiful beach with a lovely long kind of cove there and an island sitting in the middle of it. It looks absolutely stunning. And we had a lovely dog called Merrin at the time. It was this beautiful spaniel, very, very mellow. And we went into the old churchyard there. There's this ruin with loads of graves. Wow, good, look at that. And Merrin went off her head. We'd never seen her so distressed before. She was crazy. Oh gosh, so we held on to her, and Georgia held on to her. I went and had a quick run around the church, had a look, quite interesting. Back out and I held the dog, and she went on a quick look. We got back to Tobermory a few days later, and I was going through a book called The Gaelic Otherworld by John Criggs and Campbell, which is brilliant. It's a sort of history and lore from this kind of part of the world and the mythology of it all. And he had a chapter called Apparitions of the Devil in that book, and then there was a section about Sgwr. Sgwr is Sgwr. Then there are some else Sgwr. And the minister at the time, it must be in the 1700s, I think. The minister at the time had left his coat, his favourite coat, as it says in the book, down at the church. She sent his maid down to go and see if she can get it to the servant, and so she went down and she noticed there was a black dog there, and the black dog bit her and gave her hydrophobia, as rabies as we call it. And he thought there's some delay, what's going on, why would she not, what's not on? So he went down to see what's going on, and he also got bit by the black dog who got rabies. And rabies, that's not nice, he get lockjaw, and I think they both died, and it was absolutely horrible. Anyway, it was quite a strange story, and but if the dog was distressed, there must have been something in it. Anyway, I bumped into someone I used to know at the time, who spent a lot of time in the Isle of Mull down there as well. And I said, we were down at Sgwr. And before I'd finished even saying that, she was like, oh yeah, whenever we go to that churchyard there, we always see a big black dog. Make of that what you will. So there's absolutely loads of, there's a kind of epic hero character called Callum of Croig, who was, is kind of legendary tales of him as well. One of the brilliant tales about Callum of Croig is he sailed a boat so big. In fact, some people said the boat was called Callum of Croig, but he sailed a boat so big that when he was sailing towards Còmhnaidh, he caught the telephone cable going past and dragged it behind him, and all the telephones and all the dressers and the Còmhnaidh went and fell off the dressers. Loads of lovely silly things like that. There's place names that tell you all sorts of a seagull one, so there's loads of place names that tell you all sorts of stuff about what's around you, like I was saying at Eilean and Chinoch, the island of the fox, but the fox isn't here anymore. And there was the woodland of the magpie somewhere as well. P, or so P, I think magpie got P-A-I-D-H, something like that. The woodland of the magpie near Salon, no magpies, well, very rarely magpies here. And wolves as well, like Alva, Willy's Island or the Wolf Island. But yeah, there are books galore. Brilliant quick story of that used to freak me out. Driving back from Tobermory to here, or between Tobermory here, there used to be a house above the loch, the three lochs, and the Loch Meanach, the middle loch. There's this little house there, and there was a couple coming back from Tobermory one night, and it was all dark and wet and windy and rainy. Oh gosh, this is horrible. Standing outside that cottage, there was a man hunched like this, and the husband said, better wind the window down and say, would you like a lift, my good man? And the man just stared at them, and the wife said, drive away. Guy was completely dry, and he had hooves. So yeah, they drove off. So I was loaded. Peter McNabb's books I'd wait for that. There's Tall Tales from an Island, and Several other ones as well. Còmhnaidh Tuachtar. There's loads of tales he has. But yeah, the really older ones, the interesting ones, tend to be in John Gregson Campbell's The Gallagher World in Beerley. It's really good, brilliant book. Don't let me put you off coming to Mull. So it's an interesting time for the island. No two ways about it, especially with the infrastructural stuff of the boats being so bad. It's never been worse, and the season hasn't even started yet. So how do we cope with that? How do we survive with that? So yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, come to Mull. It's wonderful.
Our last stop on the island journey leads us across the water. To the Isle of Eigg. Small, resilient and rich in history, the Isle of Eigg has long been shaped by those who call it home, from early settlers to a community that took ownership of its future. Meet Catherine.
Okay, I'm Catherine Davis. I live on the Isle of Eigg. I live at the northwest side of the island, the furthest house away. I'm a basket maker. I grow my own willow and run my business from the island. Send baskets all around the world from our tiny wee post office. And right now I'm sitting in the craft shop where I volunteer. It's a cooperative, social enterprise, and we're trying to encourage makers on the island. I ended up in Eigg because I came to house sit for somebody who was on a croft and I used to work with in Greenpeace, and they wanted a holiday, and I came to Eigg. I didn't know anything about the buyout. I didn't know anything about Eigg. I came from central Scotland. And came for 2 weeks, and 6 weeks later we were back. We had bought a house, my husband and I, because, as I say, I'm a basket maker and I was looking for land to plant willow because it was important for me to grow my own material organically. And there was a cottage for sale and it had loads of land, and that was it. That was it. We went back, gave up our jobs, came back 6 weeks later with our furniture on a boat, and never left since. It's a utterly fabulous place to live. It's very challenging, living on an island is, but what that does is teach you responsibility, whereas in the Western world today, as far as I can tell, individuals don't seem to acknowledge the responsibility that we all have. And living on an island, you can't just go out and buy some or press a button and it happens, or somebody else makes it happen. More importantly, no, it's you've either got to contribute or do it yourself, and that instills a responsibility about living, because you have to make choices all the time. And so yeah, I would say that in itself is worth living on an island for. Well, there's challenges because there's the water, so you're dictated to by the boat and the weather, which is not a bad thing. Again, it's not a bad thing, it slows you down. Living on an island does slow you down because nothing happens instantly. And it's a much healthier, physically and mentally, better way of life is to go through life in a more gentle way, in a slower way. Yes, we have our own grid, we have our own unique electricity that we generate. People come from all around the world to see it. It's a fantastic thing, actually, what they've managed to achieve. But there's lots of things like that on Eigg that the community has managed to achieve. because, you know, we've come together in that, when the buyout happened, you know, we came together to make that happen, and we continue to do so as a community. And the people that made that happen are still here, and younger people coming and other people coming. You either have to live your life that way or it doesn't work, because it just doesn't work. You know, we might not all love each other, but we need each other. And so there's a recognition there, and again, that alters behaviour. You know, there's a line that you don't cross, and there's no crying here. You know, everybody's completely safe. Yes, anybody could come on, of course, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about community and the necessity to work together and how your environs impact on that. Day-to-day life, changeable. You get up in the morning and whatever you planned the day before is out the window, really. The only 2 days a week that I volunteer in here is, one of the reasons is because I know what I'm doing for 2 days of the week. I know I'm here, and nothing else could change that, because, you have to react to whatever's going on. And usually that's weather dominated as well. But that's, you know, life is never boring from that point of view. So, and because of that, and everybody here does voluntary work, and they're all in various different committees and making all of that happen. Things change all the time, so your day changes because of that. It's fine, it's the way it is, and so you just have to accept that, adapt to that, and just go with the flow. Oh yes, well, there's no way of getting off, is there? And unfortunately, the whole ferry situation in the last few years has been really, really bad. You know, Còmhnaidh have got big problems. Scottish Government needs to sort it out. If they want to support the islands, then that's the best way they can support the islands. If they want people living in the islands, they need to make sure that boats are running. It causes problems for every single person. It's in their personal life and their professional life. It just causes huge problems all of the time, it seems now. I mean, we used to have a boat that met a flip boat out at sea. You transferred onto the tiny wee boat to come ashore before we had the pier, and that meant even if it was a fridge or no matter what it was, if it was coming on the island, it has to come that way. But we never miss a boat. What keeps me here? Eigg keeps me here. Eigg keeps me here. It's everything. You know, the whole world, it seems, comes to Eigg. You know, so you're not missing out on culture or anything. And there's so much going on here. You can't do it all. No, that's not, no, there's, no. Never get bored. It's just impossible.